everyone. Welcome to today's Wellness Wednesday with the Wichita Symphony. This is our last one for a while, and today we're going to be focusing on relaxation and meditation with two of my favorite people on stage that I get to play with, hopefully in person soon. My stand partner, Timothy Jones, who I adore sitting next to, and he always brings a great energy on stage, and cellist Quinn Lake, who also brings an incredible energy on stage. And the two of them are going to share some ideas with us about relaxation, focus, meditation, call it what you will. But being musicians in high stress, typically, situations, they have become experts on like channeling that stress and turning it into a real good focus and pacing. So welcome. Who wants to share an idea first? Tim, do you want to?
Thank you for having me, first of all. It's great to be here.
Great to have you.
So I think the first thing, thank you. Yes, and I also look forward to playing with both of you soon. Got the chance to play with Quinn recently, of course. So I think the first thing that I would share about meditation, especially for those who maybe don't have experience with it or who are intimidated by the word, we can call it many things. We can call it mindfulness, we can call it reflection. But one of the most important things to understand is that the purpose or the goal of meditation is not to stop thinking. I think this is a lot of what intimidates people when they think about sitting down for however many minutes and trying to be quiet. Uh, we don't need to turn off our brain. It's more of a process of becoming aware of what's going on inside of your brain. But the idea of having to stop thinking or block out all sort of mental activity. That's not really what needs to happen during a meditation.
That is so informative, and I wish I'd known that about 20 years ago, because I always felt, it's like, okay, meditation. All right, the pressure is I need to shut everything out. I need to like focus. But nobody ever shared that you can still have a thought, and that pressure of trying to eliminate thoughts and trying to like just, I don't know. You look at like the typical meditation memes on social media, and it's somebody zenned out, and it's like, how do I get there? And you just imagine that they're just not thinking anything and they've got the sublime bliss, but that's really not what you're saying.
Indeed. And moving forward, as you get more comfortable with noticing your thoughts, then you can learn to sort of enjoy the space in between the thoughts, find more of that silence and peace. But in the beginning, simply becoming aware. What am I thinking? Where are these thoughts coming from? It's a great place to start.
And Quinn, what kind of perspective do you take on this?
Well, just to build on what Tim said, just the idea that your thoughts aren't you, that they're just kind of like clouds floating by in your mind, and that you can detach yourself from them and just notice them kind of as its own thing and not judge it, but just kind of be aware of its existence instead of feeling pinned down by having it as part of your identity. What I practice regularly is yin yoga, which is it's a form of yoga, not like what most people are probably familiar with, where you're on a mat doing all of these high intensity poses, but it's a very meditative, passive form of yoga where you're on the floor holding poses for 3 to 10 minutes.
Wow.
And you try to bring your breath down to a full cycle per minute. And so it's very slow inhaling and exhaling. And also they train you not to have any kind of goal with each pose and not try to push and stretch and kind of bring your ego into it, but to let it be. And doing that on a daily basis, I think the biggest benefit that I've gotten out of it is just the feeling of surrender and the feeling of vulnerability. And as a musician, and especially as someone who identifies as a perfectionist and someone who tends to be a control freak, that has been a game changer for me. Wow. So there's so much going on as a musician on so many levels. There's the physical component of it, all of the mental calculations that are happening, the emotional expression, the interpersonal relationships you have going on, and what do you sound like, what do the people around you sound like, and it's too much to take in. And if you try to control everything, you actually, like you said, you end up just freezing and being paralyzed. And so the idea of having that surrender and being vulnerable to the idea of kind of, there is no such thing as perfection, and so therefore whatever happens is going to be beautiful and amazing, and you just roll with it. And then just the idea of surrendering to this moment and not having an idea of what it needs to be, but letting it just bloom into what it is.
I love that. That reminds me of one of my friends who said the worst word is should. I should be doing this. I should have achieved this. This is how it should be. And that sounds like what you're just saying. Just enjoy the moment. There is no should.
Right. Yeah. And the more you try to control something, the less control you'll have.
Which is so ironic being a musician, because that's what we do with our instruments. We control our fingers, we control the sounds, we control, the environment of creating the soundscape for people.
Yet we do, but also there's a lot of just surrendering to the laws of physics and letting the weight of your bow do the work for you, instead of pounding it down and trying to just like force yourself on it, but just surrendering to the weight of the bow and the kind of momentum in your body, and just knowing that that's going to be there for you, instead of having to push through and force yourself on it. So
that's exactly one of the biggest joys of sitting next to Tim when we do work, is he brings that energy of just, it's going to be fine. I'm very calm. This is, just letting ideas float in and out. He's never said that to me, but that's the impression. And there's this saying that you are the energy you bring into the room. And I very much believe that. Why I enjoy sitting next to Tim is the energy he brings into the room. I can feel the audience feels that same kind of energy. Tim, do you want to speak a little bit on that?
Sure. And thank you, of course, for these beautiful words. It is always a pleasure to play together. One of the things I love about, well, all music making, but in the symphony also as well, I love the balance of listening and playing, Obviously these are happening simultaneously always. We're always trying to be aware of what's going on around us and responding to the sounds the other musicians are making and so on. I think it's this sort of two-way communication that makes music so magical, We're never just playing, we're also listening. And what the audience is receiving is a conversation between the musicians, themselves, as well as between the musicians and the audience. So bringing this back to the ideas of self-awareness and inner peace, I think using the word meditation again, but knowing we could use other words, this balance exists there too, that we're listening to the sounds around us and sensing the space around us, sensing if we're with other people, we're sensing the people around us, and also listening within. As Quinn used the analogy of the clouds floating through, we're noticing what's going on, what's moving inside of us, and also what's moving outside of us. We're never really in silence. This is something I've thought about a lot as a musician. We're never in complete silence, with the possible exception of a deprivation tank, perhaps. But in the real world, we're always surrounded by sound, and I often think of meditation as an exercise in listening, not unlike what I'm doing when I'm playing music with others.
That's really interesting you bring that up, because last week we talked with Susan Mayo, our colleague in the cello section, who talked about soundscapes and listening, deeply, passionately listening to the sounds around you. So that just adds one more way of enjoying and listening when we all get to return to the concert hall. For me, I always say that music is yoga for the spirit, yoga for the mind. So when you come to a concert hall, it's your space, it's your way, if you choose to let those clouds go through you or let the thoughts pass through you as you listen. You can choose to listen actively or passively. And I think that having that devoted time of a concert really allows for audience members to have that conversation with themselves and with the musicians on stage without saying any words. Now, you both played Meditation from Thais, which is about a 5-minute, 3 to 5 minute work from an opera, Thais by Massenet. And that point in that opera, I've never watched the opera, but I know that this meditation is where the main character is thinking upon a big decision she has to make. And I think you can be about any decision that you want to make. You can just think about something. And what I love about meditation is it has this serenity to it, but it also has this point of like there's contention, like you're really struggling with a decision. That's my own personal feeling with that piece. What are your feelings with that piece? How does it bring you? Does it even make you think of meditation or thought, or is it just beautiful music that you shared?
It definitely reminds me of like metaphorically walking down a path and, suddenly the landscape changes, and it has a particular kind of evolution to it that's not predictable at all. Like one moment you're kind of having this, ethereal kind of thought, and the next moment it's like something overtakes you and becomes more dramatic, and it has this it unwinds, as I think conscious thought often does, which is unpredictable and kind of flowing like a river.
Love that. And Tim?
That's beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, I've always felt that this piece, meditation, it feels a bit improvisatory. It feels a bit, well, that's the perfect word. It feels as though the music were already happening, when it begins on the third of this D major chord, it feels as if the violin were simply making this sound already, There's something about it that is a little bit unpredictable, I suppose, as Quinn said, but in a very organic way, definitely.
And I know that a number of people, a large portion of our audience, watched your performance of Hallelujah on, it was an impromptu in your backyard last year at this time. And now I feel like we are punctuating the sentence of this whole ordeal we've all been through with this meditation. And it's almost a point to ponder right before we get back to hopefully normal, whatever normal is. So I wanted to thank you both for playing this piece, this meditation from Thais by Massenet in Botanica, where we are basically launching our start of returning back to in-person performances. And that will be in May, on May 14th, I believe. And Maestro Daniel Hagee will be back in town, and we're just looking forward to seeing everybody. And the Strings will be back, I think, in July for our first in-person performance after meditating for a good long time. But I wanted to thank you both for sharing your thoughts and your wisdom. It's inspiring and grounding, and I think it affords us all a new way or an additional way to approach listening to music and basically just being. So thank you very much.